Y'all remember in my last video when I said I was going to skip Vivian? Yeah, we might have to change that. Over the course of the week, I've gotten the opportunity to test Vivian in the creator server to grasp an understanding of how she plays, discovering some of her best team comps and synergy, and just collecting enough knowledge to provide you guys my first impressions of the character leading up to her release. This is a unit that I already felt very highly of because of what we've seen so far, and I even mentioned that she's the better option to pick for players over my favorite Hugo. But after playing Vivian for myself, I could have never imagined how insane this character actually is. Vivian is about to be the new unit that defines the Anomaly class because of how insane her potential is and her ability to amplify the performance of any Anomaly unit in the game. So, in this video, I'm going to be providing you guys my initial thoughts on the character by briefly explaining how she feels to play, discussing some teams that I experimented with so far, and even talking about some secrets that we found when building her. To start, let's get into how Vivian plays. Vivian is an Ether Anomaly unit that provides off-field support while playing somewhat of a quick swap playstyle. Her core gimmick is tied to her unique mechanic of Bloom, which deals additional damage based on the anomaly that is already applied to an enemy when she lands her basic attack, Feather Bloom. This additional damage is scaled off of the agent's anomaly proficiency, so when it comes to pairing Vivian with other agents, you'll notice that some attribute anomalies benefit more from her Bloom effect than others. Now, in order for units to take advantage of Vivian's buff, you need to learn how to manage her flight feathers and understand when to trigger anomaly. When it comes to her flight feathers, these are built whenever she uses her basic attack, special attack, ultimate, and many other skills within her kit. Once these stacks have been built, Vivian is able to transition into her fluttering frog state, which converts the flight feathers into guard feathers, allowing her to perform Feather Bloom off field. This is your goal with Vivian. You want to transition into this flying state as soon as possible and as often as you can because this is where the bulk of her kit lies. This is how she primarily deals damage, builds anomaly and triggers corruption, and even how her Bloom effect is applied. This is also where the Bernice similarities comes into play, which allows Vivian to have a very familiar feel with her. But where those two characters differ is how often Vivian has to come back on field to keep her stacks up due to them being consumed every time an EX special attack is performed and when anomaly is applied. This is why I said Vivian has somewhat of a quick swap playstyle. You need to be able to manage her off and on field by squeezing her in between long animations to restock on resources and, more importantly, control anomaly application. Doing so will allow you to have more control over when her Bloom effect is applied, but it also makes her a bit more difficult to pilot. I love this a lot about the character because it kind of makes her similar to Yanagi, where she has a high enough power level to make it so that casual players can just mash with their faces and still enjoy her while still offering that layer of depth that rewards players that search for it. There's some aspects that I don't like about Vivian as well. The character ultimately lives and dies by the fluttering frog state, which is a good and bad thing. It's good because it makes her easy to understand since we know everything is tied to her flight mechanic, but it's bad because the flight mechanic itself leaves a lot to be desired. My hopes when seeing her flying for the first time was that we were finally going to get a character that could potentially perform air combos or something of that nature, but what we ended up getting was a unit that flies in the air just to come right back down. I don't know, because she does that, the flight itself seems kind of pointless to me outside of just being a cool animation. I wish she did have a lot more to offer from that stance so I didn't have this feeling, but even when having this feeling, I still think she's an amazing unit. I'm honestly hesitating to skip her now because her gameplay alone is really fun and how she synergizes with other units feels like no other. I don't know if I want to miss out on another character like this again after regretting not pulling Yanagi months ago. Vivian is just one of those characters that I think the dev team nailed really well, and they did so without making her a unit that feels like you need to pull her. She's just a unit that's great to have, but if you don't have any desire to grab her, then you don't need to. And you know what's the crazy thing about all of this? I've spoken so highly about her already, and we haven't even gotten to the most exciting thing about her, which is team building. This is where Vivian truly shines because her core passive allows her to construct some really interesting teams with a lot of characters. Now, I know a lot of you are already thinking of the go-to team comp of Vivian plus Astra and insert any anomaly agent here, which I don't blame you. This shell is going to be very good and really easy to set up, and it's also one of the main ones I tested with every anomaly character, so I already know it's going to be the go-to for a lot of you. But what's great about this character is that you have plenty of other comps at your disposal as well. You know what else you have at your disposal? Being able to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. All the support goes a long way, and if you haven't yet, be sure to join the Discord and join the Soul Society family. We're trying to get it more active over there and make it a great chill out spot for everyone that loves Zenless and just love gaming in general. So definitely join if you haven't yet. But I don't want to hold you guys up any longer. Let's get back to the video. Now with Vivian, you can build teams like Jane Caesar Vivian, Vivian Rena Yanagi, and something as crazy as Lighter Bernice Vivian. This character ability to amplify the damage of anomaly effects really allows her team pool to open up, and we're only scratching the surface so far. I'm actually super excited to experiment more with this character and see what things I can come up with in the future. I also hope that the community experiments more with the game in general, because it offers a lot of flexibility for us to try new things, and I think Vivian as a character pushes that even further. Which, speaking of experimenting, we actually found a really cool thing about Vivian's bloom effect. So like I mentioned earlier, a bloom deals additional damage based on the anomaly the enemy is suffering from. This means if burn was applied when a bloom triggered, burn will now do additional damage for a period of time. Well, when trying to test ways to increase how much additional damage a bloom does, we had the crazy idea of making Vivian slot 5 a damage bonus that matches whatever anomaly is being applied. So for example, if you're rocking Vivian Astra Miyabi, your slot 5 on Vivian would be ice damage bonus. This is because Vivian is the one that's providing the buff and not the other character, so it would make sense if we want to influence how much more damage that anomaly does when a bloom is applied, we would need to match it with the element that a bloom is buffing. Post editing Soul here, we actually got a chance to test this even more to double check and see if this was actually working, and we found out that this was not the case. The different damage bonuses tied to the slot 5 does not actually affect the overall damage increase of a bloom like we originally thought. What was happening was that the passives tied to the character's weapons were activating during the bloom moments, making us think that what was actually happening was being affected by the slot 5 when it was just the weapon passives. That was a mistake on us, but I wanted more people to test to make sure that this was correct or not, because we weren't fully sure if this was actually how it worked as well. We already debunked it. That just wasn't the case. All in all though, I would say that if you're a player that's looking for a unit that expands upon what anomaly units can currently do, while also offering a layer of depth that can be enjoyable, like mid-maxing resources and rotation, then definitely go for Vivian. She's a character that I think most players who enjoy the anomaly meta will fall in love with, as all she does is make anomaly characters better. I will say though, she shouldn't be your first anomaly unit if you don't have any already. Like I mentioned earlier, Vivian is a character that shines with team play, and in order to truly bring out what makes her shine, you need some investments into Anomaly already. Vivian on her own as your main DPS more than likely won't feel too great because she isn't designed to be played that way. She's a unit that plays more of a supportive role for her team, so forcing her to be more than that isn't as effective in my opinion. It's definitely possible, as I've seen players push Bernice as main DPS when she released, so I'm sure players would do the same with Vivian. I just don't recommend it that you do so. But those are my first impressions of Vivian. She actually surprised me, as I didn't expect her to be a unit that I would be interested in at all. When first seeing the character, I was pretty much set on skipping her, but after playing her within the creator server beta, it just goes to show that the Zenless team knows how to make some really fun characters. So again, if you want Vivian, I definitely recommend pulling for her, and if you don't care for her, skip her. She's going to be an amazing unit, but not meta-defying to the point that she's going to be a must pull for you, which is a balance that I think the dev team has started to get better and better at. But time will only tell if this actually remains true. Anyways, I appreciate you guys and all your love and support. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Join the Discord if you haven't yet, and always remember to believe in the you that believes in yourself. I'll see you guys in the next one.